What's going on YouTube? So the Nissan Leaf was one of the very first mainstream electric vehicles. And after many years, we finally have an all-new Leaf, which is nothing like the previous ones. Well, except for one thing, the super affordable price tag. This well-equipped crossover is packed with great standard features and tech, while having a starting price of only $29,990 right now, and an even more affordable trim coming soon. So, is this a ridiculously good deal you need to put in your driveway? Well, let's go ahead and find out. So like always, let's get started here with a quick spec dump. Now you can probably see under the hood there, we do not have a frunk. Instead, we have a view of some of our electrical componentry because, of course, this is an electric crossover. As far as some basic specifications, we have a 75 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack on board. This is single motor front wheel drive, and our combined power is 214 horsepower. Range on the new Leaf is up to 303 miles, although this one is rated for 259 in the Platinum trim level. And I'll remind you guys, if you're looking to buy a Nissan Leaf or any new model, make sure to head over to carconfections.com/newcarquotes, where you'll be connected to local dealerships in your area to get you the best price and access to invoice pricing information. But let's go ahead and close up the hood so we can take a look at this all-new exterior design as well as the surprisingly well-equipped interior. So I'm going to go ahead and switch into a first-person perspective since Mason couldn't join me today on this Leaf first drive. I'm here all by myself, and let's go ahead and get into this exterior design. Now, one of the things that is just a huge difference right from the start is that the Leaf was always kind of a smaller looking hatchback. Well, for this third generation, what Nissan has done is really expanded this into a crossover. Now, obviously it's not a huge crossover, but it definitely has a lot more substance, and I think that by itself is going to be a lot more attractive to American consumers. So you'll notice up here in the front, first of all, it is a wider vehicle. It's about 0.8 inches wider than the previous generation, and the styling definitely accentuates that as well. So you've got the latest interpretation of the Nissan V-Motion grille that stretches all the way out and kind of integrates in with the lighting elements. Down on the lower fascia, it's pretty simple, just kind of a plastic design there and a little bit of area to let airflow into the electric componentry and some gloss black accenting at the bottom. Now, lighting, though, is a big element of this new design, and you'll see very premium LED lighting. So LED lights are standard equipment on all models. We also have a upgraded unit with these really nice looking LEDs and the signature lighting that kind of curves down through there with a very unique shape and look, amber turn signal indicator. We also get a light bar that runs across the front, and you have the availability of an illuminated logo. So pretty much everything up here in the front can light up, also like recent Nissan products. Inside of the piano black there, you'll also notice the Leaf branding. And as we move on to our wheels, you're going to see a few different choices depending on which trim level you choose. This vehicle is going to be offered in basically just 3 trim levels: S, SV, and Platinum trims. There's also going to be plus versions of those, and that designates the larger battery capacity. Now, as far as these wheels are concerned, you start with 18-inch steel wheels and covers. That's going to help you get the best range of the lineup. If you go to the SV, you get an 18-inch alloy, and then the Platinum, which is what we're looking at right now, gets these here, 19-inch contrast alloys. Definitely a very large size for a crossover of this category. And also you'll notice that it's a very unique design as well. I think it certainly stands out as being quite fashionable. Since this is now a crossover body, you'll notice some matte black cladding, which is going to be going around the wheel arches as well as the lower part of the body to just kind of give this a more distinguished look, although this is not going to be very far off the ground. Ground clearance is just a little over 5 inches, so it's going to be very similar overall to a sedan or maybe a higher riding sedan like a Crown. Now as we move over here to the side, this comes in an overall length of 173.4 inches. It's actually a little shorter than the previous generation. And if you're wondering what this kind of sizes up to in the Nissan lineup, it's most similar to a Nissan Kicks overall. Obviously this will be below the Aria as well, and if you're looking at the upcoming Toyota CHR, that's going to be a little bit larger than this as well. This is riding on Nissan's dedicated EV platform, so it is related to what you have in the Aria. Also, of course, as you can see, this definitely doesn't have that traditional SUV shape, so the back is going to be sloped off quite aggressively, again helping with the aerodynamics and giving it that fashionable coupe SUV-like appearance. We also have the two-tone roof on today's example. This is optional on the SV and the Platinum trims to get the black painted roof. I think this really looks very nice on this model. It blends nicely in with the pillars that hide the rear door handles, and I think definitely disguises the kind of bulbous appearance of the roof there to make it look even sleeker overall. Now, as we take a look at the rear design, you'll see a lot more of those gloss black elements featured here as well. Nissan has actually kind of painted this whole center section of the deck lid in a color contrast black, matching with our roof and glass through there. Nissan is going to be spelled out instead of having a traditional logo. Your release is right there in the center part, and then you have Leaf branding down below. Now I do want to talk a little bit about the tail lights. So since we have the Platinum, we've got the available 3D holographic tail lights. So this gives you the upgraded unit, and if I get close in on those, you'll see that it has this really almost trippy appearance where, again, it is of course 3D. Definitely a neat look, and I think definitely elevates this over top of the other trim levels, which will have a little bit of a less exciting taillight design. Now, all the elements of this taillight is fully LED. You also have your LED reverse light down here underneath of the license plate. Nice gloss black for most of this lower bumper design, although you do have a little bit of the matte plastic around that. And this is not rated to tow anything by Nissan. And then as we kind of pull back here, I want to go ahead and mention our safety systems. Of course, this comes standard with all of the things that you're going to want. So forward collision assist, pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, auto high beams, and you also have the ProPilot adaptive cruise control system, all as standard equipment, even on your base trim level. Now, you've probably been getting the impression you've got a lot of really impressive standard features. That's going to be even more of the case when we get to the inside. So let's go ahead and dive into that. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from sound level readings to cargo measurements, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move on to the inside. Before we hop inside, of course, I need to show you the Nissan key fob. This is the latest Nissan fob. As you can see, you've got your standard affair of buttons. This has standard smart entry on all models, although I am noticing there's not a button to precondition the cabin on the fob. And as we approach the vehicle, you'll see these new pop-out door handles. So this is a Nissan first, actually, and it cinches your approach, and it will go ahead and pop those out as soon as you walk up to the vehicle. Then you can just grab behind there, and that will unlock the door. Now, as we take a look inside this interior, you're going to see a very impressive space. So, of course, we haven't talked about really the pricing too much, except kind of a little hint at the beginning. But you would be super surprised by just how affordable this is. When you look at the inside, it does not seem like an affordable model. And let's get into some of those details, but we'll start with the seats, of course. So this is going to begin with a cloth seat on your base S trim level. However, when you get to the SV, that gives you the tailor-fit leatherette seats, and then the Platinum gives you tailor-fit leatherette seats for both the front and the back seats. It also gives you kind of this nice-looking perforated design, which elevates the seat itself. You have kind of a quilted effect and some color contrast accents. We have a two-tone interior as well, which is another thing that really elevates this cabin to look more premium than you would expect with the light gray and the blue That's on. You're going to see that all throughout the interior, excuse me. And then as far as our seats are concerned, you're going to have a power adjusting seat on all but the base trim and 4-way lumbar support. The Platinum also gives you memory seats. But let's go ahead and climb on inside. And now that we're inside the interior, let's go ahead and look at the rest of the cabin materials. So over here on our door trim, you'll notice a leatherette that covers it, nicely padded. There's a full leatherette covering through this entire center section. And then up top here, we have a kind of cloth trim, which you'll see kind of run across the top part of the door and the dashboard. Although one thing I will say, at least on this color combination, where it's kind of a whitish or a light gray, definitely seems like something that would get stained easily. As a matter of fact, there's already a bit of a stain right there. As we move to the upper part of the dash, you'll see more of that cloth. It is hard touch on the extreme upper part. Down here, we have a color contrast panel here, which is padded a bit in that matching navy blue. And then our lower panels down here are going to be hard touch, of course, as you would expect, but everything feels nice and solidly put together. Let's fire it up with the standard push button start, which is located right up here, kind of flat on the panel. Now jumping into some individual details, I think you'll be impressed right as soon as I fire up the vehicle, because check this out, guys. We have dual 14.3 inch displays. This is the exact same cluster that you actually find in the Nissan Armada and even the Infiniti QX80. So it's a very premium cluster, and this is here on the Leaf. So if you get the base model, it will be kind of downgraded to just dual 12.3 inch displays, but even that by itself is pretty impressive. The other trims get the dual 14.3 inch displays. This gauge cluster is, of course, reconfigurable. You can use the buttons on the steering wheel to adjust various parts of the design. Right now I have the built-in Google Maps right there in the center section, and kind of in a minimalistic view. You can bring in traditional gauges if you prefer that. Then, if you get the Platinum trim level, this further throws in a head-up display, which is very unexpected for a vehicle in this segment and price point. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got the latest Nissan design. It's a 2-spoke look here, and you've got some touch-sensitive buttons on both sides of the center section there. This wheel here can be used to control your gauge cluster, or it can also be used to control the main infotainment screen. It is manual tilt and telescoping, and we also have steering wheel heating here with this Platinum trim level. Now, let's take a look next at interior storage. If we open up our center console here, you'll notice we have a decent amount of storage. I don't have the donuts with me today in Southern California. The TSA gets angry if I bring those with me, so I had to leave those behind. That being said, we will give it the donut test when we get back home to Kentucky. I think this would fit a few donuts, not a ton, but of course this is not all the storage. There's quite a bit more. So in front of that, you'll notice that you have a wireless phone charging pad. That's standard on all but the base trim. You also have another big storage cubby here where you can fit your 2 cup holders, and you also have some connections and a little bit of additional storage forward of that. And then since it's an electric crossover, Nissan has really just left this center section open. So you can come in here and easily throw down a purse, some small groceries, diaper bags, something like that, and it will slide right into that slot there, and it shouldn't slide around much at all. And then finally, we have a 12-volt outlet down there at the end. And then, can't forget, if I press that, we even have a little bit of a hidden storage slot. It's kind of like a mail slot in a way. Now, of course, that's because we don't have any shifter that's taking up this area. Nissan has moved this kind of up here to the dashboard itself. It's your typical push-button style here, nothing too complicated. Just press that D for drive, and then press the R for reverse. But when I go into reverse, this is where I really want to highlight something. Nissan is giving you the 360-degree around view camera as standard equipment on every single trim level. That's right, even the standard S Plus that's coming on sale at the base end of the lineup. I'm very impressed by that. As you can see, you've got the overhead view. You also have several different views you can select between. Nissan includes a wide angle view, and they also have a special view that you can cycle into, not in this menu, but when you're going forward, where you can kind of see through the hood, in effect, kind of a transparent hood view, helping you to avoid different types of obstacles. Overall resolution of this screen is pretty good. Also, most models get the parking sensors as well. And then just press the P there for park. Right in this area is where you will also find your volume knob for the available audio systems. This starts with a 4-speaker sound system. The SV gets 6 speakers, and the Platinum gets a 10-speaker Bose sound system. Let's give the Bose sound system a sample. Well, overall sound quality is quite good. It really fills up the cabin nicely. And you even have speakers up here in the headrest. So if you're wondering where the branding was, this is actually where they put the Bose branding, is up here on the headrest. I think this really adds to that premium ambience that you'll find inside the interior. Now, as we move beyond that, just like the Aria and some other Nissan and Infiniti products, we have some touch capacitive controls for our climate system. So this is a single zone automatic climate setup across all of the trim levels. You can quickly adjust your temperature up and down with these little arrows right here. Overall, they're pretty responsive. You have a little bit of haptic feedback as well when you press into them. And then you also will notice that you have heated seat controls. That's going to be included on your SV trim and above. No ventilated seats are offered, but I do like that this gives you an automatic function so that they will engage when you adjust the temperature to something hot. All right, and let's dig in to our main infotainment system now. So, of course, I already told you it's 14.3 inches, and this screen setup has the tiniest little border there, but really it's almost a completely seamless display, which is one of the things that looks very nice inside of a vehicle, especially at this price point. Again, this also would be a 12.3-inch display on just the base model, but regardless, you'll still get wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Right now I'm in the wireless Android Auto system, so you can see what that looks like. And I'll go ahead and pop into the main Nissan Connect system here so we can take a look at that. All the graphics here, pretty sharp, performant, pretty smooth overall as well. Big thing to highlight is that it has built-in Google Maps functionality that's going to be included with the SV trim and above. However, be aware that the trial period for this, Nissan says, is just 1 year, so after that it will require a subscription. Alexa is also built in, and when you have the Google Maps functionality enabled on your vehicle, that will also allow you for detailed route planning in terms of like hitting the right chargers on a long road trip, and also preconditioning the battery before you get to a charge point. And then finally, Nissan says this is their first model which supports streaming services inside of your different app selections. Up top here, we've got the auto dimming mirror. That's Platinum exclusive. And then let's take a look at another Platinum exclusive feature, which I think you'll be surprised by, and that's this panoramic sunroof. So up until now, really the only vehicles that we've shown on this channel that have this functionality that I'm about to show are Audi products. So the Nissan Leaf actually gets a dimmable sunroof that can be dimmed in stages. So if I press back on this button, you'll watch it kind of virtually roll back. And you can see it also even has the nice touch of putting Leaf branding up there in that panel right there, which actually casts the Leaf shadow down here below. So overall, this is a pretty cool and premium feature. Just be aware, there is no sunroof offered on the lower trim levels, and of course this doesn't have a sunshade and it does not open up. Alright, so I jumped back to the rear seats now because we need to talk about how much space you have in the back. So this is definitely kind of something to highlight because it is indeed smaller than the previous generation. It's also, quite small really for a crossover, even of a subcompact segment. So we're looking at 31.8 inches of legroom and 36.6 inches of headroom when you have the panoramic sunroof, which does impede about 1 inch on your overall headroom versus the other two trim levels. Now, in terms of this, I already told you it is less than the previous generation. It's also less than what you get in a Nissan Kicks. So I'm 5'8". This is adjusted to my 5'8" driving position. And as you can see, we have a decent amount of space here. My feet can't really wiggle much underneath of the seat. And I did bring the Car Confections ruler, of course, because we want to get that knee room measurement. And in this case, we're looking at about a little under 7 inches of knee room. So while it is decent, it definitely feels a little tight compared to the average crossover again, especially by American standards. Now, as we take a look at some of the features, you'll find that we have vents with a cool geometric design. That's included on the SV trim and above. Also, we have outlets, which are included on the SV trim and above. And then we have heated seats, and those are included on just the Platinum trim. Finally, down there at the bottom, we've got a household power outlet. Another thing that adds comfort on the SV trim and above is a fold-down armrest, which has some cup holders inside. Like I mentioned at the front, having the tailor fit, the more premium leatherette in both the front and the back requires having the Platinum trim. But when you make that selection, it's quite comfortable overall in terms of the seats. Just one thing to be aware of is that they do not fold any, so this level of recline is the only thing that you have at your disposal. Now, in terms of materials, I'm pretty impressed to see most of them carry on from the front. So you've got that fabric up at the top. The center section is a hard touch plastic, but all the armrest portions will be nicely padded. You also have some additional door storage right in there, and then you have mat pockets on the back of both seat backs. And next up, let's check out the cargo capacity. Like I mentioned on the exterior, the handle is integrated kind of right there in the middle. You'll notice we have a power tailgate. That is included on just the Platinum trim, but certainly not, of course, necessary on a crossover of this size. It's very easy to reach up there and close it yourself. Now, let's take a look at space. So inside of here, you will find 20 cubic feet of capacity behind the second row of seats. If you want to reach forward and fold those seats down, that will expand the capacity up to 55.5 cubic feet. It's nice and easy to do because they're well within reach. Oops. If I could get my finger from being hung inside of it. And there you go. You can just push that down right like that. And that gives you that, again, 55.5 cubic feet of space. Overall, this is a pretty decent capacity size, although you are a little bit constrained by the design, of course, because as you can see as I back up here, again, you have that slope back design that is going to impede on that overall capacity number. Now, in terms of different features and stuff you get back here, there's a lot of storage actually underneath of the floor. So you can see you've got all of this storage and even a little bit tucking back there. This comes with Nissan's divide and hide storage system. So we've actually demonstrated a very similar system on the Rogue, but it does allow you to actually kind of set this up so you have some different levels and you can use the same panels for different types of uses. There's some additional storage on both sides here and there. There's another household outlet because, again, this does have that vehicle to charge capability, and you have some LED illumination. Now, I do apologize. I realized that I don't have the tape measure. I forgot to bring a new one. One of them was lost, actually, overseas in Europe. So, oopsies, I apologize for that, but we'll get those full measurements of cargo length, width, and height when we get this back home to Kentucky. All right, let's get into some more details about what you have powering this next generation of the Leaf. So like I was saying earlier in the spec dump, there's two different battery capacities. So all the models at the launch here will have the Plus battery, which is a 75 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. Now, the non-Plus trims are going to get eventually a 52 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. Now, kind of comparing and contrasting the two of them, the 52 kilowatt hour battery is going to give you 174 horsepower. It's going to be single motor front wheel drive. And then the Plus models, like we're looking at today, have the single motor front wheel drive as well, but they have 214 horsepower and 216 pound-feet of torque. By the way, that is about the same as the old model with the bigger battery as well. Just be aware though that this does not have available all-wheel drive. Now, since this is related to the Aria, there's really no technical reason that Nissan can't add this at some point. However, they have not indicated to us during this presentation and launch that there would be an all-wheel drive version added at this time. Now, as far as our range, we're coming in at 303 miles for the S Plus. The SV Plus is 288 miles, and the Platinum Plus, what we have today, is 259 miles. Those are, of course, substantial improvements over the previous generation, which had a max range of 212 miles, and also very compelling range numbers for a vehicle at this price point. You're really not sacrificing in terms of range, and I think Nissan really did a great job of making sure they had the aerodynamics so that even a smaller battery pack could deliver still impressive range. Now, that upcoming smaller capacity battery, they have not officially rated that just yet, so we don't know what that will end up being. And then let's also talk about, of course, your charging. So with this model, you have chargers on both fenders of this, so both left and right, and they're two different types of chargers, so it's pretty interesting. So one of the chargers is a level 2 CCS port. That's going to be designed for home charging. Then the other side, that has the NACS, the brand new, of course, North American charging standard, aka Tesla charger. That's going to be for your DC fast charging. So it's a separation basically between fast charging and your at-home charging with having different chargers. You actually can't home charge on the NACS charge on the fast side. So that's definitely kind of interesting. Depending on your configuration of chargers at home or when you're out and about, you may actually need to get two different adapters to make this compatible with whatever you come across out there in the world. Now, as far as charge rates, 7.2 kilowatt home charging and then 150 kilowatt fast charging. That's good for 10 to 80% in 35 minutes. This vehicle is also vehicle to load capable, so you can use this to put out charge to different appliances, technology, things like that. If you're out camping, for example, or doing kind of a tailgate situation. And also, Nissan says this is plug and charge capable, meaning that with certain types of chargers, you can just walk up to the charger, grab it. You don't have to scan your credit card or any of those things. It'll just communicate directly with the vehicle. Now, another important thing I want to point out is that this new generation has a more premium multi-link rear suspension. And of course, you have different customizable features in terms of regen as well as your different drive modes. Now, we can't wait to show you this new Nissan Leaf out on the road. We'll show you how it drives, how the performance and the power are put down to the ground, and of course, get our signature sound level reading. However, we can't do that just yet. So this is under a driving impressions embargo for a few more days. So make sure to stay tuned to our channel for part 2, and that's where we're going to be taking this Leaf out on the road. And again, we're getting things like our signature sound level reading. So make sure you set your calendar to the date below. That will remind you to come back and check out the driving impressions of this Nissan Leaf. But until then, we want to just go ahead and quickly show you guys all of the exterior as well as the features so you didn't have to wait. Now, of course, the pricing is a huge point about this vehicle, so let's talk about it. Like I mentioned at the introduction, the current base price, which will be for the S Plus trim level, is $29,990. As you move to the SV, that will bring you up about $4,000. And then as you go to the Platinum Plus, that brings you up another approximately $4,000 to $38,990. Now, if we take a look at the sticker, here's our 2026 Leaf Platinum. As you can see, that's the base price there. We've got a couple options, and then with our destination charge, we're setting at $41,930. This will be built in Japan as well, by the way. And the cool thing about this Leaf, guys, is actually that this costs less than the old model, which was introduced so long ago. It's almost hard to believe, but despite having completely anemic range, really none of the features that this model has, the price has not crept up hardly any. Actually, it's gone down in price. So this is a super competitive vehicle that doesn't seem like it was impacted by inflation like, as you know, many vehicles or most vehicles on the market have in the last 4 or 5 years. Now, when that smaller capacity battery goes on sale, Nissan has not said what the price of that model is going to be, but rumors online are circulating saying that it could be about $26,000, which it would be absolutely insane. But regardless of whether you wait for that model to come out or not, this is still the cheapest electric vehicle that you can buy in America right now. And that's not factoring in, of course, any tax credits or anything. The federal one is going away soon. This wouldn't qualify for it anyways. But you can also probably get state incentives if you live in one of the zero emission states as well. And speaking of on sale, when will this be on sale? Well, Nissan says later on this year, so you shouldn't have to wait too long to pick up one of these Nissan Leafs if you are looking for one. And speaking of, if you want to buy a Nissan Leaf or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. When you do that, that will connect you with local dealerships to give you access to the best price, and it's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool when you're negotiating with dealerships. If you're interested in doing that, a link is down below in the video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of the video.